All right. So, how long have we been on the road now? Do you think? About since the day we left with the vehicle from the condominium in Amherst. Not when we picked it up and brought it back to Amherst, but when we left Amherst to start. When
I'm
was
guessing
that?
about 5 weeks.
So it's been about 5 weeks. You remember the last time we sat down and had a conversation? We did this thing where we did.
It was back in September.
It was back in September. You have very good memory.
I remember things.
Why don't you introduce the dog first, so people know
This
what's
would
going
be
on?
Max. Hey, Max. Hey, Max. Max is a dog that we're house sitting for over in Georgia.
Yep.
He's a very mellow 10-year-old lab. It's the first dog that I ever met that didn't like to go for a walk.
Yep.
I have to bribe him with treats.
I'll say something positive.
That is positive. Oh, look at that face.
Yeah, he's got a beautiful face. Just a great
Good dog. Very
Great
low
dog.
key.
Yep.
Very undemanding.
Yep.
He does like to talk to you.
Yep.
Right, Max? Oh. Can you speak? Nobody's actually digging the whole camera thing right now.
Yeah, he is.
You're
He's
not
very
getting the butt?
photogenic.
Yes.
So it's been about 5 weeks since we've been on the road,
5 weeks.
and we all had concerns when we left. So I don't really remember the questions off the top of my head, but I think one of the things was what it would be like to be on the road. I mean, we don't have a home anymore. Our home is our vehicle now.
Yeah, we're kind of homeless.
Yeah, we're sort of homeless. So how, in that aspect, how do you feel about all of that?
I'm actually feeling okay with that.
Okay.
It's not really as big a deal as I thought it would be. Yes, there are times that I miss home,
Yep.
but I'm really kind of liking the whole adventure of going out and doing what we want when
Yeah.
we want and seeing places that we've never seen. So all in all, it's really not a big deal.
Uh-huh.
We haven't really been out and about for that long,
Great.
but I think the whole bit with house sitting intermingled with going out exploring, it's going to work out perfect.
So you mentioned something before with you said something about seeing new places and things like that. So up to this point in like the last 5 weeks, so what are just give me a couple of items that stick out that in your mind as to cool places or things that we saw that were kind of fun or neat or different or a learning experience, what have you.
Well, I think all in all, it's all been fun. I mean, from hanging out in Columbia, South Carolina, visiting the town and just walking around, checking out different places we've never been.
Yeah.
And then the whole Bussy Point and where was the other place we were at?
Bussy Point was we were at Brick House first.
Brick House. Brick House was good.
Yeah,
I liked Bussy Point a little bit better. We were on the water.
yeah.
It was nice.
As we are here.
As we are here, which is quite lovely.
Yeah,
Can't complain.
yeah,
I feel like we haven't had to go to campgrounds per se, which
Yeah.
is nice because I'm really not looking forward to being in a spot
yeah,
with 20, 30, 40 other rigs.
yeah,
That doesn't really sound like a great time,
yeah,
but I'm sure occasionally we'll do it.
yeah.
But for the most part, we're going to just try to be out and about, off the grid,
Yeah.
and hanging out in Mother Nature.
Now, one of the concerns I had was how you were going to adapt to the whole camping lifestyle, the confinement, smaller spaces, living in a very small. I mean, let's face it, it's not a fifth wheel, it's not a travel trailer. I think that actually there's probably a little bit more room in a slide-in pickup camper. So
Maybe not. I don't
yeah,
know.
maybe not.
But it really hasn't been that bad. It's less is more.
Yeah,
You know, we're only in it really to
yeah,
sleep,
yeah,
things like that.
yeah,
You know, we can cook outside, which is nice. We really
Yep.
got to do that at the end of Brick House
yep,
and while we were at Bussy Point.
Yep.
And I think that's where we're really going to shine and
yeah.
enjoy it the most.
Right, great. So, You've had 5 weeks to do any of this. Are there things that stick out in your mind that are obvious that you might have had a concern with that are pretty much extinguished now? Like something that was like, oh, what if? And then, like in the 5 weeks that we've done this, you pretty much eliminated off the top of your head. It's just like doesn't
Well-
even not even a problem anymore or whatever.
Sort of the what if was how we were going to get the mail, but we've had one mail delivery.
Yep.
We just got it last week.
Yep.
Haven't had mail since we left the condo, which has been fine because everything's been paperless.
Yeah.
All the bills are coming that way, so anything that we did get in the mail really wasn't
Right.
of any concern.
Yep.
So that was one of the big things. And just making sure that we were organized and ready to go.
Yep.
And I think that we've been pretty organized in everything.
Yeah, I do too.
Right now while we're at this house sit, we're exploring where we're going next, which is going to be, should we tell anybody?
No, I think we'll leave that up in the air, but needless to say, we're heading south and west.
Yes, we're having
Yeah.
south and west, and we're going to visit,
Yeah.
which we'll let you know next time.
Yeah, and I've got like a couple more minutes for you on there. Do you want to describe to everybody the sort of the house sit and how it came to be, and how we're integrating that into our travel plans?
Well, the house sit option really started a few years ago when I first signed up for Trusted House Sitters, just to start delving into how it all worked. We never utilized it really before this time. You pretty much are going online, you're checking out house sits that people are looking for, so we can apply for a house sit anywhere really. I mean, we did our passports before we left home, so in essence we really could go anywhere in the world to house sit,
Yeah.
which I think at some point we might try after the first year.
Okay.
We just need to be able to put the rig down somewhere that we feel that'll be safe for when we're gone. But we pretty much, you go online, you find a house sit that you would like,
And
you can
for it.
apply for that one or as many as you want, and that's what we did the first time. We applied probably for about 8. We got 2 responses back right away. From those 2, I started talking to both women off of them, then kind of decided which one we wanted, and then from there we just chose the one that we wanted and pretty much let everybody else know, thank you for taking the time to review our stuff, but we were no longer interested. So it's pretty easy,
Great.
but we kind of have a lot to offer for our house sit.
I think so. Since we've owned a house.
Owned a house for 25 years, 26 years, and we're not looking to go into a house sit and go exploring. We're doing our exploring while we're away from.
Yep.
Before we hit a house sit, when we get to the house sit, we pretty much are just going to hang with the animals and hang around the house
Yeah.
so we can regroup.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Makeup, please.
Yes. Buddy.
So, John, I see you're hanging out there with Max.
Yes,
And
our
we're-
new friend, our new buddy,
We're at our first house sit in
Milledgeville, Georgia, on a lake called Lake Sinclair. It's a man-made lake on, I don't remember the river, but it's a huge lake. Lake Sinclair is just giant.
Yes, it is. You want to tell us how you're feeling about this house sit so far?
I have to say that, well, if I start on the house sit, I'm going to have to start on Southern people in general. And that's probably a good thing, because I wasn't really sure how the whole house sit stuff was going to go. I mean, I don't know how I would do it. I think maybe because I'm a northern person, I'm a little bit more uptight.
You uptight?
Yeah. But in general, I got to back up until, this whole, when we drove down here, when we started this adventure, when we left Connecticut and we started to head south. Oh, yeah. I just noticed that people in the South in general were just nicer. And we drove at one time. We drove into Newberry, South Carolina. I think it was on the day that we were going to just stay over for the night, or we were going in for dinner, or whatever the case may be. And we pull into this gas station, and there was a policeman there. And he came out, and he was just the nicest guy. We started talking about the camper, and then the people we've met, in grocery stores or in bars or in restaurants in Newberry itself. So when we got to this house, these people were just so incredibly nice. They welcomed it. I mean, we were strangers, and we had never met before the day that we drove down that driveway, other than a few texts over the phone. A phone conversation. We had never met these people before. They filled the refrigerator for us. They filled the pantries for us. They used the hot tub. Take a fishing pole. They were so welcoming into this home for strangers.
I know, it is pretty remarkable.
It was truly, just really cool. At the same time, it really makes you want to, do right by them. We want to leave their house cleaner and brighter and ready for them to come back when they're done with whatever they need to do on their vacation. But I just think it's just a cool situation to be able to, well, I know what we put it on the blog a couple of times, but it's a matter. And to be able to have a dog,
It is
we
kind of nice.
lost our dog, and that was really hard. I mean, it was going to be really hard to be able to take Buddy with us because he was old, and now that we've been in the truck for a while, that would have been a really hard thing for him. I mean, it would have been hard for us, but it would have been really hard for him, and he wouldn't have been happy about it.
No, I think you really need to start them earlier. I mean, Buddy was 16.
Yeah.
And he hated going in the car.
And hated going in a car to begin with. So to be in, traveling, at 3 or 4 hours at a whack, and, he just wouldn't have been happy. So, it's nice to be able to go to a house sit and have a dog for a little while, and then know too that you're keeping an animal happy for their owners while their owners aren't there. So it helps the owners, and it's great for the dog. It's great for us. It's such a win-win situation.
And we do need to let people know that majority of the reason why people ask people to come into their house to house sit is because of their
pets, not because they're worried about their house. They just want their pets to be, happy
and where
and
are
not
they
stressed.
Right.
And especially with older pets. It's harder and harder. If it's a very young animal, I think young animals are more adaptive at travel and going to new places or going to a kennel or wherever. But when you get, like Max loves his house. Max is just happy sleeping in his pillow. Right now he's going back and forth because he just wants to go up to the house and take a nap. Yes, you're right. Yeah, huh? You just want to go take a nap. But it's nice for us to be able to connect with an animal, and then we get to do other things. We get to settle, and of course we both got sick. So it wouldn't have been fun to be traveling and being sick. It takes longer to recover.
But I hear the majority of the country's sick right now, too.
Yeah.
So
it's
we're
not just
alone.
us. I thought it was just me, but apparently everybody gets sick.
Yeah, especially this time of year.
Yeah. So that's how I feel about that.
Okay, so now what's probably been the hardest part of this whole transition since we left the condo in November for you?
I think the hardest part was since we left the condo is it's sort of this time of the year. It's very difficult for me this time of the year because of the holidays. So the holidays always stir up a lot of memories about family and friends and, spending Christmas and New Year's doing things. And I have to say, granted, that hasn't really happened in the last 10 years, but, we have reconnected with some people that are very close to us Deb, Casey, Allie, Todd, and John now. So I guess it's a little bit of a sad time right now in that regard. But at the same time, we're getting through it. We're making new memories and hopefully making some new traditions. And I think some of that stuff will kind of work itself out over time as far as trying to kind of keep some sort of tradition in our lifestyle somehow. Possibly. The other thing was the driving part. The driving thing for me was really huge because, I have anxiety, and I know that word is so overused sometimes that, I've got anxiety. Well, you have anxiety when you open a bill and look at a bill for the month for the electric company. You have anxiety when you try to make a car payment and the bank account is not quite where it needs to be. I'm not talking about that kind of anxiety. I'm talking about the kind of anxiety that just makes you feel like your brain's just gonna fly apart. So
Fancy gap.
So driving, with the truck and the trailer and trying to navigate and having you navigate for the first time and dealing with that. Not that was like a huge deal, because as it turns out, it's not at all a deal.
Right, I didn't even talk about navigation.
But when you're I have this just, like I said, when the chemicals in the brain aren't like where they need to be, and then you don't get enough sleep, and you have too much caffeine, and yada yada yada, and your head's not square enough, then it gets harder to do things. Well, driving for us, we've been over the Tappan Zee Bridge and coming through Charlotte 4 wide.
Horrible.
Yeah, and if you guys want to know why NASCAR is so big in the South, drive through Charlotte
Right, I
on a
agree,
busy
Max.
day. It's like 4 or 5 wide, doing 75, 80 miles an hour, and the lines are going like you're driving down the road and there's construction. You can imagine construction 4 or 5 lanes wide, but they're still actively using it. And you're looking at the road and you're watching the dotted lines, and there's 4 sets of dotted lines going one way, but you actually have to drive the other way. So it's just this bizarre feeling, and it's like you're still doing 80 miles an hour. It's not like you're doing 35. So I would have to say that driving was something that I thought would be difficult, and it hasn't really turned out to be as difficult. It's actually like a lot easier in that sense. So I actually enjoy, and part of the reason I am starting to enjoy driving is that truck. That truck really has, it's just the power, the brake and everything.
I think we're out of minutes.
How do you know? Do you know what to look at? What's it say?
I can't see.
Well, where's your glasses, honey?
They're in the house.
That's a good place for them. You want to use mine?
Sure.
Here you go.
You want to hold my teacup?
Yeah, well, sure, of course.
It's empty.
Prop.
Prop.
Next question, please.
Next question would be, I think we should give people a little insight as to where we're planning
All right,
on
so
going.
the plan here is based upon the weather. There seems, if you looked in the United States right now, the way the
What's up,
Max the dog. So if you looked across the United States right now, who wants a scrunchie in his ears is what he wants. Yes. If you looked across the United States right now, there's this sort of like funnel of cold air that comes across Texas towards New Mexico. So it's sort of like holding us down. So I think what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to actually move across in the next week or so down through Alabama, Louisiana, and into Texas. And then we might have a surprise in Texas waiting for us. So that's sort of like our plan in the next, 2 or 3 weeks.
No, I think we can tell people where we're going.
Okay, so our plan is that we want to end up at Big Bend National Park. Probably
Spend about 2 weeks.
In about 2 weeks. And we've got a couple of harvest hosts that we're going to stay, and we're going to talk about that in the next vlog that we'll probably do
On the road
while we're in the park, maybe.
Or maybe when we're at a Harvest Host.
Or when we're out of Harvest Host, we can talk about
On our
Harvest
way to
Host.
Big Bend.
On our way to Big Bend. So then after Big Bend, and we got some other things going on in Austin, and then we're going to probably shoot over to New Mexico. But
Who knows?
who knows? You never know.
So if anybody has anything
Yeah.
they know about Big Bend,
And yeah, if you want to talk about Big Bend or Texas or what to see in Texas or something to think, I have a friend of mine, Carlos, that I used to work with in the Air Force. I know he's slinking around Shreveport right now, and he might be heading to Texas as well. So, it'll be interesting to see.